Hello, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of Captivating Conversations. And boy, oh boy, have I got someone who's going to captivate you tonight. Sherry Bennett, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Peter. Thank you, and thank you for having me on this conversation.
Well, I'm excited about this. And for those who aren't sure what this is going to be all about, let me give you a very brief bio about Sherry, because we are lucky to have this lady, and she's got an incredible thing to share with you. Sherry is a medical cannabis educator and the founder and managing director of Let's Talk Cannabis. And that's the website you should be going to, letstalkcannabis.ca, correct?
That's right.
Let's Talk Cannabis, okay. Sherry is a business professional who values collaboration, communication, education, and most importantly, compassion. Her focus is and always has been to provide unparalleled education and support for her clients. Sherry's caregiving expertise, coupled with her own lived experiences, inspired her to launch Bayview Concierge in 2012 to make life and living easier for seniors and their families. And I mean, we could go on for hours with Sherry because she's got an incredible bio, but let me just say this. Recently, Sherry was recognised as Entrepreneur of the Year by the King Chamber of Commerce. Did I do justice okay, Sherry, that do?
Yes, thank you. Sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. So I've got some questions for you, Sherry. Are you ready to go?
I am.
Okay. The first one is, tell me, why do you do what you do? But in answering that question, what do you do? And then why do you do it?
Wow. So I got into this business about 10 years ago because I truly, through my life experience, got to learn that, we can't get through life alone and people need help. So I love, helping people through certain events in their life. And I organize nursing care and personal support care workers for families that were dealing with members that had, terminal illnesses, for instance, or aging parents. And I found that many of my clients were asking me to get legal access to medical cannabis. So I delved into the research, and because I was looking at it for myself too. And I was able to arrange that for my clients. And the more and more I learned, the more I realized that this is fascinating medicine that has been on the planet since civilization. And it has, so many people have had significant results in contrast to their sleeping pills and antidepressants and other medications that, one may be on. So I'm here to speak for generations of people, actually, who have been not allowed to talk about cannabis due to prohibition, And so now we're living in a time that is, the world is opening up a bit and people are realizing that cannabis is legitimate medicine.
And for those who are listening to this, Sherry is also an unparalleled educator, and that's one of her key focuses. And part of this conversation today is for her to educate you about this whole thing of medicinal cannabis, because you may have some hang-ups about it. You never know, right? So thank you, Sherry, for that. Tell me now, this is the next step. How have you structured your business and why have you done it that way?
Well, I set up a Bayview Concierge as a referral agency, and I refer people to the products and services, good quality products and services that they need to help them, I call it, to help them manage the logistics of life. And I'm most proud of my website, letstalkcannabis.ca, because that's an online educational platform where we offer blog articles with really good information about cannabis and the human endocannabinoid system, for instance. Like every single person on this planet has an endocannabinoid system. And that may be new knowledge to a lot of people because this system is not yet taught in med schools. So unfortunately, most doctors don't know about this yet, as it was just discovered in 1988 by an Israeli chemist, Dr. Raphael Meshulam. And so unfortunately, there's no good quality education for medical professionals. So
Wow,
I've
even though it's been around for 30 odd years.
Cannabis,
No.
medical
No.
cannabis has been legal in Canada.
The whole system that was discovered in 1988.
Oh, the endocannabinoid.
Endocannabinoid,
Yes, that's correct. Well, due to the laws and prohibition, and researchers were not allowed to research it to any great extent because of the complicated laws.
Okay.
So finally, it became legal for medical reasons or medical use in 2001 in Canada. And in 2018, Canada legalized cannabis for recreational use too.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd just like to take a break here and say that whether one takes cannabis for medicinal reasons or for recreational purposes, it's still medicine, and it still interacts with all the other systems in our body. You know, for instance, I'm just going to show you here, we have the endocannabinoid system that is the largest regulating system in the human body. So in fact, we know now, we have the evidence that says that cannabis is a necessary medicine for most conditions, most human conditions. And especially for those who live with symptoms of PTSD, post-traumatic stress. And frankly, there's a lot of that happening now. A lot of people are very, very stressed, right?
Sherry, would it be possible that many doctors don't know much about the endocannabinoid system?
Yes, most don't, unfortunately.
Most don't, even though it was discovered 34 years ago. They still don't know.
Yes, that's correct. That's right.
Okay. And that's all part of the legal stuff, you know. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because yeah, can you imagine going to a doctor and your doctor doesn't understand your digestive system or your nervous system, for instance, or, you know, and they get taught that, but they don't get taught about the endocannabinoid system yet. It's starting to happen, but
even though it's one of the major systems in your body.
The largest modulating system.
The largest, right.
Yeah, the largest modulating system in the human body. So I'm here to say that there's hope for the future and hope for people who are stressed and living with chronic pain and mental health challenges.
Well, because that leads straight into my next question. I would like to ask you this. How do you see cannabis helping people, for example, we just mentioned, with chronic pain and anxiety and depression? How does it work?
Right. Well, cannabis, what well-meaning doctors do when we have these conditions, that they prescribe us antidepressants and tranquilizers and sleeping pills and pain medications, opioid medications. And frankly, opioids come with a huge risk of life-threatening addiction and lethal overdose. And cannabis does not. And so we learn in the education on my website, we learn that it is impossible for one to die from taking cannabis. So, and cannabis works so well with the human body and very many conditions. So it's, and for sure, it does not come with the risk of life-threatening addiction.
So has it been proved beyond all doubt that cannabis is non-addictive?
Yes, it has been, yes. And actually, I'm just going to show you this quickly. Like here we have a chart here, and people will say, oh, well, we're going to get addicted to cannabis, perhaps. And in fact, cannabis is, if we look at tobacco and heroin and cocaine, alcohol and caffeine, cannabis is right at the end there, like 9% chance of becoming dependent on cannabis. And
Good.
frankly, I have it in my system. I choose to have it in my system every single day. And that's been for over 5 years now. So, and another thing I'd like to point out, just because one has THC in their system, which is the molecule that people are really nervous about, because that's the molecule that causes psychoactivity. Just because one has THC in their system does not mean that one is impaired. In fact, for some people like me, cannabis helps me with focus and productivity. So it's just, you know, that's how my brain operates. And
Okay.
yeah, there's layers and layers of things we could talk about under the auspices of cannabis
Well,
medicine. Really.
Well, because of the uncertainty in some people's minds regarding medical cannabis, especially in the medical profession, I presume, and also within government circles and the regulations, right?
Yes, right.
How do you see the future of the cannabis industry?
I'm really excited about it because there are a lot of really legitimate, compassionate companies out there that are working together to with a common benefit of helping humanity, right? This pandemic has fueled domestic violence and racism, and the opioid crisis in North America is off the Richter scale. It is just, we have so many people dying of accidental opioid overdoses and intentional as well. So we have a real problem with drugs, unsafe drugs. And so my message is to tell people to please make sure you get it from a regulated source, and if you're going to grow it yourself, know what you're doing, and let your doctor know that you're taking it too. Because we're finding now too that it can interact with some, I think about 400 different drugs and medications that people are on. For instance, blood pressure medication. So I know several people who've been able to reduce their blood pressure once they add cannabis medicine into their treatment protocol. And for sure, you know, we were frankly brainwashed in the 1930s, led to believe that cannabis was the devil weed, and that it was a gateway drug. In fact, you know, it's an exit drug. It helps people reduce their opioid consumption. So if one has to take, you know, 12 to 20 pain pills every day, one can reduce their pain medications considerably when adding cannabis to the treatment protocol. I just got to tell you that my dad was a doctor, and he used to say, oh, cannabis, it leads to, you know, it's a gateway drug, and it's going to lead to heroin and you know, cocaine and all this sort of thing. And in fact, no, it is not. It's a...
Yeah, I can remember those conversations taking place. Yeah. But let me take you back to when you first answered the question, Sherry, and please, I don't want to hold you too long. I know how busy you are. But when you said, I asked you about the future of the cannabis, you said excited.
Oh, so
Tell me
excited.
why. What's the excitement based on?
Because now, you know, farmers are gathering together, and like technology is expanding. They have amazing technology now to be able to test the cannabis products, to make sure, to see the exact terpene profile in there, for instance, or the exact molecules in the formulation or in the plant matter. And that's very, very important, because we need to make sure if we're consuming cannabis in whatever form that it doesn't, it's not contaminated, you know, with street drugs, for instance, and that it is free of mold and pesticides and free of heavy metals. So we have this technology now to be able to test and regulate these products. And that's so exciting. And then there are people all around the world that are making clothing out of hemp clothing. They're making fabrics again, and rope and concrete. They're like hempcrete, they call it, for building materials. So it's all environmentally sustainable. Everything in this ecosystem. It's like an ecosystem of goodness around going on there right now in the cannabis industry. And frankly, there's so many companies that are just, giving it away to people who are seriously ill with cancer, and so much compassion going on in the back end, or the so yeah, so I'm just so overwhelmed with gratitude, because frankly it saved my life. And for those of us that live with symptoms of PTSD, I mean, that disorder comes with, well, it's a condition, and it comes with nightmares and flashbacks and anxiety off the Richter scale. And a lot of people die by suicide because they can't, manage that. And then their brain plays funny tricks on them when they're on these other medications that well-meaning doctors prescribe for us. And those medications could often cause suicidal ideation. Some of the antidepressants they give us.
Right.
So personally, I was able to, for the last, I was on, I think, Ativan, which is a tranquilizer, for about 20 years. And I'm totally, the only thing I take now is medical cannabis every day, and with significant results. And I'm not the only one. I'm just trying to be the voice, to give people a voice, or to give the medicine a voice, because it's been used since before the Ming Dynasty. And on my website, I love my website so much because it contains blog articles that are written by others, and some are success stories, some are talking about how Indigenous communities in Ontario are really now, in my opinion, they're creating an empire of health, and they're helping so many people in the community by making, they make suppositories, for instance, for people that are living with prostate cancer, believe it or not, and cannabis oil and dried flower, and they have their own testing protocols and laws. So it's just a lot of goodness, and they are all gathering together to help each other, to help create another.
I'm smiling,
Yeah.
Sherry, because
Yeah.
today we
Yeah.
laid 20 meters of concrete, right? I didn't even know healthcrete existed. And
Hempcrete
cannabis is legal in Thailand, right?
Cannabis is legal in Thailand.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
I
they're
didn't know.
smart.
Wow.
Yes. So yeah, that's hempcrete, it's called. Yeah, made
Hempcrete.
from hemp.
Hempcrete. Yeah. Wow. Wish I'd
All
known that.
sustainable regenerative agriculture and growing practices. And there's some amazing brands that sell organic cannabis, and some really good craft cannabis growers that know what they're doing. And they've had to work under the radar for all these years because of the prohibitive laws. Yeah, so that's changing too.
Sherry Bennett, you are a compassionate, but also, how would you say this, an enthusiastic educator. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, I get so fired up because I see how people, become friendly with life again,
Yeah.
and that's huge. And now we're using cannabis. I have a lot of experience with helping people at the end of their lives. And now they're using cannabis to help people in hospice and long-term care facilities.
Right.
So that's really good. And some people like suffering with Parkinson's disease, and even Alzheimer's. And there's so many applications for kids that have autism. There are companies making patches, transdermal patches to put on for kids, that can't maybe tolerate the oil drops, and so many different ways to consume it. So, many people like to inhale it. And I suggest if you do, then vaporizing the dried flower would be a safer approach, because it's 95% smoke and carcinogen free. So if we smoke it, then we get all the burned plant matter in our lungs. And frankly, we don't want any kind of burn plant matter in our lungs right now, especially
That's
now.
good advice. That is very good advice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Wow. And I mean, you struck a chord with me, Sherry, because my
Yeah.
dad, before he passed away, suffered significantly with Alzheimer's. Okay.
Ah, and that's a horrible
and it
thing,
was
isn't it?
really sad to see. Okay.
Yeah.
And the treatments were pretty ordinary, actually. Anyway.
Yeah, so
Wow.
that's what I wish, I really wish that, my parents were alive right now because I would really recommend it. And drops, drops are so easy to put under the tongue or in your applesauce or whatever, whatever you like to eat.
So you can
And
do that rather than smoke anything. Just do
yeah,
that.
you can have drops or little wee capsules, little like gel
Wow, I'm
capsules.
so pleased you showed that. That'll
Yeah,
help a lot of people get to understand and appreciate this more. Yeah.
yeah, it's lovely. And it is truly effective medicine.
Right.
And we can't ignore it anymore because we got the science. We have the science. Of course, we need more data. We always need more data, but we got the science. We got the evidence now.
Well, Sherry, in summary, what is the most important thing you'd like to leave with the audience?
Let me think. There are many, but the most important thing for me is I'm encouraging everyone to please become educated and stretch your intelligence. Like don't believe, try to listen to your own body and listen to a whole host of people from different walks of life and know that cannabis is legitimate medicine. Cannabis is legitimate business. And more importantly, it does not come with the risk of life-threatening addiction or lethal overdose.
Thank
So that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you. And thank you for your time.
Thank
Before
you.
you go, there'll be
Yeah.
people wanting to find out a lot more about this because what you've covered today will certainly make people think, perhaps for the first time in their life, maybe this cannabis business isn't as bad as I thought, right? So how can they
Right.
contact you, Sherry Bennett? What's the best way to
So
contact you?
yeah, so my website is letstalkcannabis.ca. And if you look at my blog articles, you'll read a lot of wonderful stories. If you look at the media page, you will read a little bit about my history and the background. And also the most recent podcast I was on called The Conversation, Cannabis and Christianity. There are amazing people that are interviewed by Miguel Torres on this podcast. And we're learning from each other, but he's also a magnificent person who's bringing the voices. He's giving a platform for the patients to speak, for people to speak, and I'm learning so much from all of the guests on his show. So I truly love that platform, and I listen to it every single week. I can't wait for it. So. We have my interview on there. We have an interview with a couple of doctors. He interviewed some very interesting CEOs of cannabis companies. So yeah, stay tuned. It's exciting. It's so exciting when we're finding people all over the world with the same mission, let's say. And speaking about mission, we have a lot of problems with our veterans in North America, both in Canada and the United States, and veterans need to be given legal access to safe, affordable, dignified cannabis, because often the stigma is very strong in the military, and so I want to change that. In Canada, we're just starting. We have an insurance company called Blue Cross that pays for medical cannabis for our Canadian veterans, which is good, but that should be across the planet somehow. We have to take care of these people who have been looking after our countries, and So sorry, I know it's hard. There's a lot of things I want to talk about, and And in the interest of time, I'll pause there.
Sherry, thank you so much for sharing some of your valuable time. I love your compassion. I really love that. And the fact that you are prepared to go into bat and to educate people
Yeah,
in an era when you are seeing an exciting opportunity for
yes,
people to be able to access medical cannabis for
yes,
perhaps the first time in their lives and
yeah,
overcome all the hang-ups that people have had. Okay.
that's right. Yeah, that's
Sherry,
right.
thanks for being part of Captivating Conversations. It was an absolute pleasure to interview you.
Thank you so very much, Peter. Thank you.
Okay.
And I hope to speak to you again soon. Thank you very much.